wrote like a Sefer HaMitzvahs. Just like some of the Rishonim wrote, many Rishonim wrote Sefer HaMitzvahs. Some Tzedek wrote a Sefer HaMitzvahs. It's not clear if he had in mind to write all 613 mitzvahs. Some of the Rishonim just wrote the mitzvahs. Some of the Rishonim also wrote the spiritual inyan around the mitzvahs. For example, like the Sefer HaChinuch, take it from the box, a fresh, hot off the press. This Tzedek, Derech Mitzvosecha, is considered one of the very, very mamish from the Amudei Atava, from the here, take it fresh. Oh, wow! Let us sit. Which? That's choice. To the right side. This was a very, the Rebbe wanted, was printed, the Sefer was printed like with the, small rashis is. And before Pesach, in Tov Shinun Aleph, the Rebbe spoke about that Sforim have to be beautiful, Sforim have to be nice. The Rebbe said they should print the L'chutei Torah, the Torah oil, and in Derech Mitzvosecha, oisis merubos. And the Rebbe didn't like it, that they, like these tiny oisis, Rashi oisis, that are a little difficult to read. So in the beginning, right before the Agdama Samoitzel oil, the Rebbe wrote a special note to them, to thanking them for printing this in Oisis Merubos. Okay. Page Chavches, Yisroel, Sinas Yisroel, Mitzvas, Ahavas Yisroel. No better way to start. We need Ahavas Yisroel is something very, very important. So we're starting with this mitzvah. Shaloi listen l'chaveir. One of the 650 mitzvahs is not to hate another Jew. Then there's also a positive mitzvah. Lev kol adam Yisrael, to love every Jew. And that's mitzvah Reish Mem Gimel. Yedua, Ma'amad Hillel Azok Lagir. We know that there's a story with Hillel Azok and the Ger, that he told the Ger, that the guy came to Shammai and he said, teach me the whole Torah when I'm standing on one foot, and Shammai pushed him out, and Hillel not only didn't chase him away, but he actually told him something which impressed him so much. The Gemara says another two stories. The Gemara says that they met together and said, wow, Hillel was brilliant. It was brought us into Kamfer Shchina. Emes moving Kolkach. It's not fully understood. You could say there are no mitzvah sheben adam l'chaveiroi. So if you could live by the motto that Allah soni l'chavrach l'tavik, so you could get along with a friend. You could get along if your basic thing in life is that Allah soni l'chavrach l'tavik. You won't steal, you won't kill, you won't hit him, you won't lie to him, you won't cheat him, you won't say manos for him, on and on and on and on. You won't be mazik him, because that's the foundation of relationships.
Do they have any in the whole Torah, the whole mitzvah? Do they have any mitzvah that your heart, that is not your heart? Is it? I know. This is the one. Do they have another one?
No. So the question is, that this makes sense by mitzvah shor l'chaveira. So you could say, look, if you're egocentric, you're never going to get along with others. But if Allah you consider it to others, then you'll have good relationships with people around you, and that's the foundation between all mitzvah shor l'chaveira. But if it's mitzvahs between the Eibishter and the Yid, what are you going to say? Befrat, what is he trying to say? He's trying to say like this: if one person is going to answer, we have a relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom also. Rebbeinu Shalom tells you, don't eat pork. If you eat pork, he gets upset. If a man tells his wife, please don't leave the dirty dishes all over the kitchen. Put them in the sink. I'll take out the garbages, but it stinks. And she never listens to him. She puts the dirty dishes all over the counter, and she, instead of putting it in the garbage, here it is in the box. And there's no more. Oh wow! So that again. Okay. Moshe wants to share. No, because Moshe wants to share.
Yeah.
Because it's Mitzvas Ahavas Yisroel.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely.
So you could say, but I'm asking her so many times, she doesn't care. I told her, I'll take out the garbages, just put the stuff, it stinks. Even the silliest example, right? So you can say like this, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, how many times did I tell you, don't eat the pork? And you keep on going to Burger King, and I tell you not to eat basa b'cholav, and you keep up just because the burgers are a couple dollars cheaper. So that was true if the Rebbeinu Shalom really cares about the pork. It gets him really angry, just like it gets the guy angry that the house is stinking and there's garbage all over the place. But because we say that we say in Iyov that if you're a tzaddik, it doesn't make a difference. Because the Eibishter chose that he should have 630 mitzvahs, and he will go against the Eibishter's will. So it's not intrinsic. It's not a piece of garbage. It's not that it's stinking and he can't stand the stench of the basa b'cholav. So I can't stand it. That's stinking my whole house up. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom was boiche b'bchirosei achavshis, that a yid should separate between basa b'cholav. So Amela, you just separate between basa b'cholav. So therefore, you can't say that my relationship with other human beings, you could say the backbone of every relationship is madalok son and lachavrak l'david. Well, how could you say that with the Rebbeinu Shalom, that my relationship with him is based on this principle? It's not true. It's not true. That's what he's saying. Yeah, I'm no so that's the question. You could say that the backbone of every relationship is to be considerate of another human being. But the relationship with Hashem, it's not true. It's simply not true. True, the Eibishter cares if we do mitzvahs, and he doesn't want us to do Avedas. But it's not the same like a human being. It's an intrinsic thing. I don't want the house to stink. It was intrinsic. The Eibishter boiche gewinnt. The Eibishter, he picked. Wow. Okay. It's written, it's written in Simon and Vav, and it's brought from the Arizal. So we know that the Rebbe made a very big campaign about this. They've asked that Chabad should go around with stickers, give out to Yidden, should put in the Siddur, in the beginning of the Siddur. But that Arizal said that so the Vishu is so good, it's a Shabbat in Yonah. So we have to understand why Dafka before Tefillah. If you're telling me that he said of the whole Torah, and that's what Hillel said, so call Torah Kula. So why did Arizal say and this is considered by Lubavitcher Rebbe one of his campaigns, Lubavitcher Siddim, to convince every Yid, even if he doesn't daven on the Nusach of the Arizal, that he should put a sticker in a Siddur. I didn't know Makabala life. So every mitzvah is connected. In a time of mitzvahs, Pasha Kedoshim Kotzai Rizal wrote, Zel Shem, Chol Yisroel. And Demesis is not from the Arizal. Time of mitzvahs is from Reb Chaim Vital. Chaim Vital writes from the Arizal, Chol Yisroel Soy Kudecha, Shanish Mesod that all the Eden is really one goof of Adam Arishik. Know that Slenu, as we already explained, the Sefer HaGilgul in Perik Aleph Beis. That's why it says that when Adam Arishik was Goylom, that Metzsh Tanchuma said, David showed him all the tzaddikim, Mehen Nitlim Beroishe, Mehen Nitlim Bezroye, Mehen Nitlim Ba'ayin Achaz Ba'ayin Sheni. That the Eibush showed Adam Arishik how every tzaddik, and in a broader sense, you can say V'amachtulim tzaddikim, that he showed him that there's a ton of tzaddikim in his right eye and a ton of tzaddikim in his left eye, ton of tzaddikim in his right hand, a ton of tzaddikim in his left hand, v'chulu.
Sefer HaGishbunim, Haim Avital, or
Yeah.
they had it now?
Yeah, sure. So like a Yisroel, Eva brought to me. Every Yid, it's an Eva. So Ahavas, Sha'adam Arav B'Shvil Chaveir. That's why we say that Kol Yisroel Arevim Zeh B'Zeh. That a Yid is responsible for another Yid. Why? Because really they all come from Guf Echad Shel Nishmas Adam Erish. So therefore he's responsible in Yechta. We speak about it many times, that really this is Negel Halacha. It's not just, people don't realize, people think that this Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh is a platitude. It's a slogan, but it's not. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh is Halacha. It's brought many, many, many times in Derech in Shulchan Aruch, and also in Yeridea, and in Even HaZechor Mishpat. For example, that if you're going to put on film on another Jew and he doesn't know how to make a bracha, you don't have to stare. Baruch, Baruch, Ata, Ata. You just say the bracha, and he listens, or he says Amen. You make the bracha for him. Why you make the bracha for him? Because if he didn't put on film, you didn't put on film. So it's as if I'm putting on film right now, because even though I only have one right hand and one left hand, depending if you're righty or lefty, but really, I think I only have one hand, but I really have many, many hands. So one of my hands put on film, but my other hand did not put on film. Therefore, I can make a bracha. So this is really halacha. So that's why my Rebbe used to say all the vidui, you call Yisrael guf echad, because all the Eden are one guf. That's a vidui. In other words, the Chaim Vital, to him, was like, why would that Israel say vidui? He never said it. So the emes the Rebbe has a pure nifla on this. It's a pure nifla from the Rebbe on this. The Rebbe says, why couldn't the Chaim Vital answer a Poshta Teretz? That ain't on his Madrega. On his Madrega. Why couldn't he answer a simple answer? That Arizal was an unbelievable tzaddik, but on his Madrega, he did something, small infraction. But Maloch of Yosem Tolo. So you're going to say, no, Reb Chaim Vital was he was like Lubavitcher. It was like, that his Rebbe was infallible. But still, on his darga. So the Rebbe says, no, the answer is Azoy. The Reb Chaim Vital could have given this answer. But then the vidui and the tshuva that he did was not a regular vidui and tshuva, because the emes says that Rebbe Arizal did not do regular chatoim, because he was a tzaddik kipshute, a tzaddik from Tanya. So therefore, if you're going to say that his vidui was because of very slight sins that he did, so then his tshuva, it's a different level of tshuva. It's not the regular tshuva that me and you are doing. It's a different type of tshuva. It's a different type of pain. It's a different type of tshuva. So then you would say that the Arizal really was lacking the maila of a regular Baal Tshuva. He didn't know the pain of a sin, disappointment of being nifshal on something gruesome, being very pained by it, cleansing. So he was pure, so he never had it. He never had that experience. So the Chaim Vital doesn't want to say that, because he wants to say, and this is the beer really in this ois. The beer in this ois is going to be that there's two levels. There is 2 levels in Achdus. The Alter Rebbe is going to say that there is the Achdus of all the Jews, the way the neshamas are before they separate into different Evorim. And then there is a Achdus, the way they separate Evorim. For example, there is the Tipa of a child. Before it was, one became a hand and one became, or like the Rambam says, that the Chachma Yovan had this concept of Koyach Yuli, potential. So now this Tipa has a potential, and everything is in one Tipa, one Akuda. So there is the way all the Neshamas are one Akuda. Then there is the way the Neshamas are different Akudas. There's a Yad, there's another Yad, there's an Ayin, and there's another Medish Levish who showed him that some Neshamas are in his right eye, some his left hand, his right hand, his left hand. Still over there's a big Achdus. Why? Because the Tzemach Tzedek says, we see the Kipshutoi that sometimes there's one chelak of the goof is sick, and you give medicine to the other chelak of the goof, and it heals this part of the goof. And one of the things that we see with our eye that connects all the Evorim is the blood. There isn't a blood that belongs in the nose and a blood that belongs in the eye and blood that belongs in the toe. The blood goes and circulates in the entire goof. So also the way the human body is ausgestellt is that that all the evodim are connected. Still, the nerve system is connected to the brain, and if there is a pain in one avid, they're mostly felt in the brain. But the other evodim also, if a person's in pain, it's very hard to say that the brain is in pain and this hand is in pain. The other one is in Florida on the beach. It doesn't work that way. Fart that's felt, it reverberates all over the goof. But that avid that's sick, and maybe the brain feels it more. And not only maybe, but be'emes, the brain feels it more because a lulai, the system, the nerve system that a person has, it wouldn't feel agosh or pain. Sometimes a person doesn't feel agosh or pain. That's the worst thing in the world. So really, the brain feels it very much. So the Rebbe said that that's why we have, sometimes we ask a tzaddik to help us in tefillah. A person should daven himself because all the yidden are connected. So some fakir, the roish feels the pain more than the eva proti. So therefore, it makes sense to go to tzaddik and to daven by cave of a tzaddik, then daven with a tzaddik. So the Rebbe says that Reb Chaim Vital could have said that his Rebbe said vidui because on his level there was something wrong, but then that wouldn't bring out the nekuda because that wasn't the emes. The emes is that Izal felt Fayid was oiver and aveda, that Izal felt it, like the story that the Rebbe said in his first Maimer about the Mittel Rebbe. The Rebbe told the story of each one of the Rebbeim of Chabad in the Maimer starting from the Baal Shem Tov. The story is told about the Mittel Rebbe that someone came on Sichidus and the Mittel Rebbe rolled up his sleeve and he showed him that his skin was like it was like kovuts on his bone.
What?
That was like, his skin was like shriveled and was sitting on his bone. And he said, this that you spoke to me tonight about that Aveda you did, and you're asking for tikkun, that's why this is on my hand. So the Mittel Rebbe told him that I'm feeling it. Your pain, I'm feeling your pain. I'm feeling it physically, your pain. So that's what Chaim Vital was trying to bring out. That his Rebbe, when he said vidu, it wasn't just because the doctors, maybe he did something not so right. No. It was for, big fat chatoim. Because if another Yid sinned, because him and the other Yid are connected, so he feels it. And he feels it more than the other, because two Jews could be like a right hand and a left hand. The Rebbe is Mitzayin over here to Yerushalmi. The Rebbe found that this says the Yerushalmi in the Dor in Perek Tes, that the Yerushalmi says that if the one hand would never hit the other hand. Accidentally, one hand did something wrong, the other hand's not going to hit him. So the Rebbe says that he's not going to cut the other one. So the Rebbe says that that's the Yisoid of what the Rebbe says and what the Tzemach Tzedek says. Still, they're two separate hands. But by tzaddikim, they feel the achdus on a higher level. They feel the achdus the way it is, not when they're separate, elamai, they're connected. They feel the achdus the way it's b'shoshim. Therefore, that Izal, when a Yid sin, that Izal could feel it in a very strong way. And therefore, that Izal says vidui. And the vidui has a mila for that Izal as if he did tshuva. And also affects that Yid. Because at the end of the day, it's that Yid sin. So that Izal, obviously, you have to say, if this is common sense, that they can't say that guy sinned and that Izal's doing tshuva, and he can go sin a second time and a third time and a fourth time. On a deeper level, probably the idea is that it has a pool of the makif, not the pnimi. That person has to cleanse himself with pnimius. But still, the makif it really has a certain effect. When that Izal said vidui, that Yid that did that Aveda, all of a sudden felt like a Hiru Tshuva. All of a sudden felt something. And if that Yid worked further on himself, then he would be able to do Tshuva Pnimis. So that's the Gewalt that Rebbe says, with the answer that Chaim Vital gives about the Arizal. Okay, I want to go back to this Nakuda from the Rebbe at the end of the Yos.
Couldn't affect the middle of the years, only affecting the middle. Let's go for that.
But shows that, wow.
I know it's emotional ones, and it's not good at it. 1 year. But for the other year, it's responsibility is like, let's say we're in a big boat. Everybody rent a room in the boat. So one guy in the boat says, it's fine, we want to do what they want. You want to drill a hole. Right? You're allowed to do it. But not only you're going to sing everybody else. So yes, it's your room and you do what you want. But certain thing, when you do, well, you can call everybody else.
Makes a lot of sense. The thing is that the Bemis is that what we're going to say in the Ois is even more. That the Alter Rebbe is going to say that there is B'Shorsham, and not just sitting in the same boat, but it's like a bottom and one goof, and B'Shorsham, it's mamish one nakuda. It's much more than that.
I've said a story with the Rebbe, but he locked himself in a room because he came to him and he didn't.
Right. He didn't find it. He said, "Where is it? How come I'm not finding it?" I said, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Oin Mekara. And
We said about the Khatam Sofer, I think Khatam Sofer, when he went to a doctor with his wife had a pen or something, he said, we have a pen.
right.
So Khatam Sofer.
No. Rabbi Levin. They said Rabbi Levin. That's how they keep Shalim. Rabbi Edward could have had Matzach Sefer too. Rabbi Edward, probably some Sefer felt the same way. Rabbi Edward Shadam Elishin, High Clothes, called the Shamas Kula, Yisroel, Adam Nishan is called all the Neshamas. Lavad, Mois, and Shiav Acher Atchia. Besides the ones that come Acher Atchia, Ein Sham Perigzain, they're different sides. They're Neshamas Kadoshes. Shahoyu Koilel Kulam, that he had them all in him. Mehem Iklim Beroshim and Iklim Israel, like the Lashon in Edishlan Chumah. Hashem is a Nikr Adam Adam Al. That's why it's called Adam. Adam Al. Where is the Dimion of Adam Elishan to Elyon? That the he was a reflection of Adam Dalaela. Just like Adam Dalaela, the 10 Sfiris is a way of Partzuf. What does it mean, 10 Sfiris in a way of Partzuf? As we'll explain in a second. That just like the Father and the Son are similar to each other. So just like Adam Delaela is the idea of Partzuf, the same thing, Adam Rishon was Indian of Partzuf. The Indian of Adam Delaela is Shema, because the Eibishter has 4 names, Ab, Sag, Ma, Ban, and that's 4 ways of spelling Yud, Kei, Vav, Kei, and Ma is if you have a Yud, Vav, Dalet, and a Hey, Aleph, so you're going to have the smallest number of Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. You could write Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Yud, Vav, Dalet, Hey, Yud. Whoa, you're going to get a bigger number. You're going to get 72. But 45 is when you spell Yud, Vav, Dalet, Hey, Aleph. Vav, Aleph, Vav, Hey, Aleph. What's so special about Shema? We say, Iu Oirach Atzilus. This is the road of Atzilus. And this Olam HaTikun is connected to Shema. What's the idea of Shema and the Olam HaTikun? Sheyu Ayut Sfiris Klulim Zemizeh. That in Olam HaTikun the 10 Sfiris are mixed with each other. Shachesed Kolul Megvura. The Chesed is mixed into Gvura. Gvura Kolul Chesed, and Gvura has some Chesed in it. Shenkim B'Toy in the world of Toy. That they're separated, the one next under each other, Viscalalus, and they don't have Viscalas. In the world of Tikkun, they do. Viscalas as I said, there is the idea of Shema, which is in the Eibishter's Metzach, in the forehead. Just like we say Chochmas Adam Torah Panav, you see the lichkeit of a person in his face. You see the holiness of a person in his forehead. That's why we say the opposite of Zoina, you see her chutzpah in her forehead. Shenken by a person, he said the kedusha you see in the forehead. That's right. Azus Metzach, exactly. Very good. Azus, we say in the Al-Chet, Azus Metzach, that the Azus was written all over our forehead. Even though
Ask an Amer. Same Al-Chet.
Okay.
Numbers.
So the Shema in the Mitzvah shines in the world of Tikkun. Shubchinas ein soif hakol kol ishtalshus protan imtzaim. That is the idea of ein soif, which has all the imtzaim in him. Kimucha kol ksiv, it says mucha kol, everything is in the Eibishter. Lachein hu agorim gam ken inin iskalulus acher yitziyosam al agila kol echad ve'echad b'fnei atzma. And let me explain. Another portion. He's saying, how is it in the world of Atzilus that everything interlocks, everything goes to Chesed, it connects with Kura. What connects with Chesed? Mashal Chesed gives, if you give a child a knife, that's not called Chesed. If you hold the child, if you take away the knife from a child, that's Chesed. There's Gvura because the child is not happy with you. So it's Chesed. Elamai, in the Chesed is Gvura. And you may be even going to punish the child and threaten the child that if you catch him again, schlepping the knife, they're going to get punishment. So that's the union of Iskalus and Midas. In Toyu, every Midah is very strong. They don't mix too much. In Tikkun, they mix a lot. Why do they mix in Tikkun and not in Toyu? Because we say in Tikkun there is a Gilui of Shem Mash B'Metzach. That just like the Metzach, it's like it shines over there. They see clearly the Yutke Vavke. In other words, in Memchakel, everything is by the Eibishter. Everything is from the Eibishter. So the way everything is in the Eibishter, there's no contradiction between one thing and the other thing. It's all from the Eibishter. So in the Olam HaTikkun, because they see that everything comes from the Eibishter, so it's easy for them to connect. Chesed could take a little bit of Gvura in it, and Gvura could take a little bit of Chesed. In the world of Toyu, it doesn't shine Shem Mashav and Mitzvah. So therefore, they can't mix with each other. That says in Tikkun Zohar, Shema, the you oira chatzilus. Those that say the Pasach Eliyot Friday night, that's a line in the Pasach Eliyot. So the Zohar says that Shema is the oira chatzilus. What is oira chatzilus? Oirach doesn't mean a guest. Oirach means a road. Kemoya oirach, shemachabe shnei mekoymes nevdolem aim sham barucha. Just like a road, why do you build highways and byways? Because you want to connect places. Huh? What does it? It's the oirach, it's the road of life. So in Shema, you oirach atzilus. He makes a road. He builds bridges between Chesed and Gvura and Chesed. Shema builds bridges. That's Pshat in the Zohar. Shema, the oirach atzilus. He builds the roads in atzilus. So we said that Odom is Adam al Elyon. Just like in Elyon, we say there's two Nakudas. Everything is Nichlal and the Eibush. But it shines in the world that even though there are already 10 separate Sfidas, that it shines that Kavana, and therefore there's a bridge between Chesed and Gvura. And that's called Partzuf. That's called Partzuf. That's a reflection of the Olam HaTzilus and Olam HaTikkun. There's 248 separate Ibarat. And then they interlock with each other. The Rebbe said, I'll give you a marshal. Just like by a goof, even though you have separate things, there's a head, there's feet, there's hands, they all connect, they interlock. We see that the blood goes for every chelik of the goof, so that connects them. As we see, and it's known, for example, if you heal one Ahav, for example, if you take out, they would believe. Yeah? That's just like, well, oh yeah? Wow. So they believe that Akoza Saddam, the Gemara, they believe. The Gemara calls it. The Gemara talks about Akoza Saddam. What you should do, if you're very careful, day before, day after, you shouldn't do it after you're 50, you should put under code, whatever, but the Akoza was considered a Ripu. So it's not for that. The Akoza happens in one chelik of the body, and it heals the entire body. So how does that work? How come really it happens why is it that actually the Borim help each other? Because really the nefesh is one. Shuameh v'moyach shebroi shemenes part of the kolachel ha'achir. Ukol kulam the nefesh is really, they're all part of one nefesh. So therefore, also when they come out to be 248 different levarim, they help each other and are connected with each other. Derech mashla yuli, just like the idea of koich yuli has in it whatever comes later. That's why the brain feels very much the pain of the ramach ebonim. The kevayad amarevgel shovim etzloi are, it's all a pain. It doesn't say just about a person. When you have the function of a yad v'regel, a person could say this is more important or less important. But when it comes to a pain, it doesn't work that way. Because over there, because they're all connected to the nefesh. Derech zo is kalos and amachi bori nefesh adam benishim zem zem achmas mokechai nafshe shubchinas kos milod adam alien. That all the 248 Eivarim of Adam Rishon, they have achtus on two levels. The way they're ready, two separate 248 Eivarim. One cares for the other, and one could heal the other. But why is it? Because really, b'shorshim they're one nekuda. She'chachma ilod Adam Elyon ch'nesein tzef she'sher v'siyachim v'chmas that the Yid is called nibachodi. K'may adventure tipim and b'yachab. And the Yidna reflection of the Eibishter. Omnam. Ach omnam la'achar she'nechal kenishmas adam nishim l'sheroshim nana. Once you have nishmas adam nishim and separate sheroshim, cholachem nechlach lanof and tzaitzis rabbis v'chlippus v'lechodes. And there's a commercial evorim she'nifredu zemazeh v'lo yichav la'mak ila'yad maka sheberegel l'mufredz v'menu. Sometimes the hand will not feel the pain of the regel. Brain feels it. Omnam apiru duzer rak mitzad haguf, aval hanefesh lo nifreda be'emes. The kulam asimus and mitzad hanefesh they all connect. Kama k'moshel hayad sheyesh b'm bride haregel, v'ayin b'chem beregel min hayad v'yotza v'yesh bo kev otzam beruchniusam nekev hayin kenal b'moshel. Because they're connected. Therefore, the Rizal said all the biduim. Because he felt that pain. So the person could feel another Jew on two levels, because all the Evorim interlock, and the emes is mitzad shorshim, they're really one. So what happens? Why would a person not feel the simcha of another Jew or the pain of another Jew? If another Yid has a simcha, I should feel the simcha. If the other Yid feels a tzar, I should feel a tzar. It's elamai because a person is so into his goof that he doesn't feel the nefesh. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Lamed Beis in Tanya, that's why the Kol Torah is that a person should be more in tune with his nefesh than his goof. That who I identify as what? What do I identify as? I identify as a goof or as a nefesh. So if I identify as a nefesh, then I would feel the simcha of another yid, and I would feel the tzar of another yid. V'lachein, Mitzvavinu Gamkein, the Rebbe says that's why by the Arizal was more. Because the Arizal was an neshama which is not stam a regel and neshama. That was a yad regel. But he was a neshama that had to do with the Rosh B'nai Yisroel. So therefore he felt it in a much stronger way. That's why he felt it in a much stronger way. This, we have to get ready for Gimel Tammuz. Stalkus Lul of the Rebbe. So there is the Rebbe was the Rebbe in Malava Malta was a Dava Choshev B'Yosef. This year it's going to be Gimel Tammuz, it's going to be a Matzah Shabbos. There's a story of that Arizal. It's not from Chabad sources. Beautiful story. That Arizal had a Talmud. The Talmud did such a terrible Aveda that in heaven they said that Satan has He's in the hands of the Sultan. It's bad news. In his hands. And he was at Ov in a Kehila. And one day was one Shabbos. It was middle of davening, and all of a sudden he felt such an urge to become a goy. He threw off his talus and he ran into the house of the Galach. And he told the Galach, he ran into his house, he told him he wants the Rahman al-Islam bin Ishtamet. The Galach was very busy at that moment with Lord. But that such a fat fish fell straight into his net. So he asked his servant to take the dog to another room and to give him to eat, to drink, and when he'll finish, he'll be mitapel with this fat fish. So the servant of the Galach took him to a room, and he gave him to eat. At the Kedarkom, he gave him also yain sorov. But this Rav didn't know how you drink yain sorov. He wasn't born with drinking. I wasn't usually drunk. He would drink Coca-Cola and seltzer. And because he drank so much yain sorov, he became shikir, and he vomited. And he fell asleep, fell on the floor. And when he woke up again, he had such a big taiva to be in the shtamet, but he was waiting for the galach. Again, he was drinking more yain sorov, falling asleep again. I saw the shlishis. Here's the kud of the story. That this is the way the Chassidim tell the story. That the Baal Shem Tov had a minig. That by the shlishis, he would look around what's going on by all his talmidim. He would look around what's going on by all his talmidim, and he saw that this Talmud is such a bad place. He's in the terrible place of Tuma. So he went to heaven and he asked, "Now fear, why is my Talmud? Why is it that my Talmud is in such a place?" So they said that he deserved it. So Hashem Tov asked if there's some way he could save his Talmud. So they said that there has to be a Zorat Fei. What kind of mitzvah is? There's a mitzvah that he's very, very, very mahadlik. Well, Hashem Tov said, I know my Talmud is very, very mahadlik in the mitzvah of Malav Malkin. That Malav Malki is very, very, very mahadlik. Malav Malki is a very big thing. So by Chassidus Malav Malki was a mullidik thing. To have Malav Malki every month of Shabbos. Why? Whatever, another discussion. But L'Poel, Chassidus Malav Malki was a very, very, very big deal. Starting from the Baal Shem Tov, Hayadua, it's a very, very big deal to make a Malav Malka. So the Baal Shem Tov said that this Talmud, the Zohar Tfei, he always makes a big Malav Malka, and he's very nizar. He said if this month of Shabbos he's going to make a Malav Malka like every Shabbos, he'll be saved. So right after Abdullah, the Baal Shem Tov asked one of the Talmidim to take a piece of challah from the Baal Shem Tov, and he should go, and he told him to go, and when he'll find this Talmud, that he should make sure he washes his hands, and that he eats the challah as a chelik of Malav Malkin. The Talmud didn't ask any questions, he walked out, and he had to fit Saderet. And he ended up looking, he sees a house, the door's open, and he walks in. It was a Galach's house. And he walks straight to this room, and he sees this Talmud that he's looking for on the ground. And he wakes up, and his head is spinning, causing shikir, and still the mashk is in him. And the best way to get rid of a hangover is to drink a little more. So he wants to drink a little more mashk. But Talmud grabs his hand and said, no. Slep, you're going to wash Negelwasser, then you're going to wash or Malava Malka, then you'll drink. So he forced him up, and they washed him, washed him for the Suda, and he made the Bracha Moitzi. And as soon as he swallowed a little bit of challah, the Baal Shem Tov he realized what is he doing in Rechman Slan. He felt so terrible that he's in the house of a Galach, wanted to be Mishtabel, to be a Goy. He all of a sudden wanted to do Tshuva. So he asked his Chaver, how am I going to do Tshuva? So he said, hold on to my garden, because I have a shtickles of Hashem that I have to go back. So he held on to the garden, they walked out of the house, and they had Mitzvos Derech, and they came back to Hashem. Hashem to give the Talmud the Derech truth. This is the story. So I was thinking about it today when I'm learning the mind. This is the Geval, the Rebbe's word about the Nizal. That the Chaim Vital could say that the Nizal did some Chatoim Bedakus. That's why he said Vidui. No, but that wouldn't be. So that's a Vidu Bedakus, and that's true with the Dakus. The Nizal, his Ahavas Yisroel is in a much more intense way. Why? Because one hand doesn't feel so much the kaim in the other hand. It wouldn't hurt the other hand like Hashem said. But it doesn't so much feel. He only feels it because they're both connected to the brain. And because there is a nerve system that's controlled by the brain, so the one hand is familiar with the tzad, that's the other. The brain itself, that's not where a person feels everything. So because the Arizal was Rosh Bnei Yisrael, so forget, he felt it was just like the Bashemton. Bashemton felt his Talmud. Elamai, the true attack of the Pliny is the Talmud has to do. But the Yisroel is with B'chinas Makiv from, that's why I like the story, to illustrate Nekuda, that the Rebbe's Chidush. That the Rebbe says that it helps the Arizal and it helps the other Yid. It makes the Arizal have the mile of a Balshuva, and it helps that Yid because it helps him do tshuva, just like in the story of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov looked at his Talmud, so he was Malamed Schus, and there was a certain tshuva b'chinas Makiv, but hard, he needed to do tshuva, so he came to the Baal Shem Tov. So let's go back to the Ois, to finish the Ois in the Maimah. Therefore, we have a mitzvah to love every Jew. Okay, you should love the other Jew. And that's why you bring it connected to every mitzvah, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, because every mitzvah is lahalas hanefesh ala guf, that I identify not with my guf, but with my nefesh. So if I feel the symptom of another Yid, or the tzad of another Yid, that means I'm doing my job, and that's connected to all the mitzvahs. This is what the Alter Rebbe adds from what the Alter Rebbe is saying. Beautiful words. So gam kishtar kabel mitzvah kodim tefillah kidesh yuchol limsa nafshe ve'echem sh'tal lifnei Hashem. The union of the tefillah is the yid's most nefesh Hashem. It's a carbon. He comes close to the Eibush, carbon in a way of kiruv. B'chinas man b'krishma, he elevates himself. My look for him. He elevates himself in Krishma as a carbon to the Eibush. Yif shaliyas aliyas hu halab kei tiv b'shlema b'riyad. Dana shekol kolo m'kolei neshamas k'may Eibush b'riyus hu shabrim avridim shebekol m'kolei borim sheyaz ta'alu marotzim shebach chachmas yuzborim shu akalot kol neshamas kolo ke'echem mamish b'sheshosh yesh b'biskalas gamken m'kula yochli lalas b'ira klol l'shim m'koyim m'shoshim. Because they're all one, it could go up. It's called the Zeus, B'Shaodim Marav Atzma B'Gufe Kein Shoy B'Reu Keivarim Akulum Zavazeh V'Shili Shalach Ge'atzma B'Sori Hu B'Shenkum Sh'Soyna Elechem Yisrael B'Livet Harei Umafrid B'Nafshe Hoyse Chelik Shal Zulas HaKolabag V'Deicheyu Alav B'Sina Zu Sh'Soyna U'Mesalak V'Tsoyna V'Menu V'Meila Yesh Boi P'Gam V'Chesona B'Nafshe Sh'Nechse Boi Achelik Anal V'Nasa Balmum Kebemes kol eber brought the kol matayag mit tayag behind miskalo zelos boy. By the asinu who mafrid mimenu oise chelik proti. Goes when you ochlalos larotz lifnei Hashem. Kudiksiva kol asher yeh by mum lo yikrev lahakrev. It's unbelievable. The pshat is just like. And what happens? Amum, the Abisha said that you can't bring a balmum. We'll say in a second why. If a person wants to come close to Abisha b'tefillah, because that's the whole meaning of tefillah, to be a korban, to become close to Eibishter. So if he hates another Jew, so effectively what he's doing is, it's as if a person cut off a finger. If a person cut off an Eva from a behemoth, that behemoth cannot be brought on the Mizbeach. According to Rahman al-Islam, when mutilated himself, cut off an Eivet, he would not be allowed to do the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. So the same thing, if a person before the Tefillah has a Hashem Tzina to another Jew, so that because that Jew and him are really one of move, so it's as if he's missing an Eivet. Because the Torah says, "Asher boi mum lo yikra lahakiv," that a Baal mum cannot come on the Mizbeach, so he cannot now go up on the Mizbeach hatafila. So therefore, Tzemach Tzedek saying on both levels. So the Mitzvosech and the Loitase. The Loitase is Loitis has a special shaychus to tefillah. What was the question? One of the questions Tzemach Tzedek asked, why did Rizal say dafka before the tefillah? Hareini mekabel alai Mitzvosech shavaf l'racham. And Rafaket Hill said that Ahavas Yisroel is to do with all 630 mitzvahs. So why shouldn't it before I build a sukkah or before I eat matzah, I should say before I eat matzah, I should say and then go wash and make a bracha al achilas matzah. What's the connection dafka to tefillah? Why did Rizal make such a big deal out of it? So that's the answer to Tzemach Tzedek, because on two levels. If chas v'shalom, I have a sin a little bit in me against one yid, so I'm a chaser eiver. I'm missing my shleima. So how can I be oila as according to the Eibishter? Either when I have avet every yid, I feel the simcha of another yid, and I feel what's going on by another yid. So therefore, the whole gufa allows that I should be oila. Because that's all of a sudden there's a connection. So the old Evonim are connecting. So that allows that there should be an aliyah. Therefore, the Rizal said it's very important before the tefillah to say it in the Makabel Allah it's say Shabbat l'rach. Even though the pashtus the tefillah is oila, when I really love another yid, and when I really feel simcha for another yid, and when I really make sure that there's no sinner. So what did that Rizal help by saying words? But there is such a concept that person's makabel, and makabel to do a mitzvah like malal v'akosid. You know, when the Yidden were makabel, when Moshe Rabbeinu said mitzrayim malal v'akosid, because I was excited to do this malal v'akosid as if they already did it. So even if I didn't yet do it fully. I said, "Areini mekabel alai mitzvosech shel v'afta l'reyacha kol boicha." So I was already mekabel on me this mitzvah. So I'm already on the road to be a korban shalom. Also on the road to feel the achtas, the iskalolus, the union of olam hatikun. So therefore, it allows me to be oila b'tefillah. Let's finish the last few lines. T'ksiv asher boi mu boi yikrev lahakiv. Shayr Yitzhak Baruch Hu Hakol Kulam Lo Yizbelenu Mitzad HaChisaron Shebay Shechisar Oisei Ve'Brot Sherei Ein Tzad Baruch Hu Kol Gam Oisei V'Dal Alachen Etz Navinu Kama Mit Lo Yitasei V'Akrovas Baalei Mum Hein B'Koyin Hein B'Korbanos Atzim L'Shchosam Pashas Emer. That because the Eibush is b'shleimus, so therefore a korban has to be b'shleimus, a kohen has to be b'shleimus, and it's in a gam k'mitzvah say lahaker kol korban tomim k'siv tomim yilarotzim. The Eibush is b'shleimus. Same thing before bedavening, we have to make sure to be b'shleimus. Okay, so why we picked this moment to start? Because first of all, this is one of the Rebbe's Mitzvah campaigns. We spoke about the Shabbos that there's no question that in this situation where Klal Yisrael is in, that the Mitzvah campaign is that's the answer. So one of the Mitzvah was to talk to Eden about that idea of Ahavas Yisroel. Not everyone understands what Ahavas Yisroel is about. So that's one nakuda in the campaign. The other thing in the campaign is to influence every Yid to say, I didn't Makabel Mitzvah say, Shabbat Larach Kavosh, go to Matfilah. Maybe shall often we should say it, we should mean it, we should be Matzliach. Only Shachrit. Probably because Shachrit starts the whole system. Now,
What are we going to say? What are we going to say for what?
Why we start?
And I've heard it done with the people is playing all
Okay.
And that's actually.
After the hour, I think, I do say every day.
Oh yeah?
The rest of the last year, every morning.
Oh, every day?
Yeah, right. That's it.
Before Tefillah?
It's almost now it's cut. I said, almost.
He was like, oh,
Wow.
Start going on. Oh, there. I already got it. Master. Can say, Japan, yes, I think the one is gone. Take it off. Get away. Take it off. This thing is good. Right, and then you have that. Yeah, okay. Could be always with a source of that. So short over that one. That's so this one. I'm such thing. I'm going to come back to the I'm going to go long. Saying, I'm sorry, I need so much. Two shots. Now, if the church of the world. There's not a full you're saying wow. True. Obviously, let's do this kind of what? Of course not. It's a start. Wow.